Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up With Conspicuous. We have just been discussing it's hit allergy season, so don't mind me if I am itching my eyes away today. But I am joined by the lovely Chris Chandler from Grey Matter, who is the Microsoft Alliance Manager there. And we're going to have a very interesting chat today, so make sure you're listening. But Chris, thank you so much for joining today. I know you're a busy bee, so happy to have pinned you down for half an hour. But how are you today?
Yeah, doing well, thank you. As you say, besides being busy, but busy for the right reasons, as we kind of some the content we're going to talk through today is all in line with that. Really, just having lots of great conversations with innovators around Microsoft Marketplace, and the programs that are available to ISVs. So yeah, all good.
Absolutely. No, a very relevant conversation, which I think a lot of people are going to be interested in hearing what has to be said. Before we dive into the meat of it all, just for those that might not be aware of who you are and what you do, where have you come from? What's your journey been into the role you are today?
Oh, sure. So, for 20 years, really, I've been in the Microsoft partner ecosystem in some form or another. So many years ago, I started out building what was white box PCs and servers at the time. So for people that may be on the call that remember that far back, actually cutting my hands on PC cases and deploying Windows XP and server operating systems and what have you. And over that time, developed into Microsoft focused pre-sales roles and sales roles to ultimately where I've got to today, which is supporting ISVs, MSPs, all Microsoft partner types, really around what's possible from a Microsoft solutions, platforms, programs, marketplace perspective. So yeah, safe to say I've earned my scars over the years when it comes to working with Microsoft.
Oh, well, it definitely sounds like an extensive history, so I'm sure you're going to have a lot to discuss today. Now, obviously, for those that may be watching that might be from a technical background but not understanding the difference. So, for those that might not know what an ISV is, could you just quickly explain what that is in this industry?
Sure, and that is a super relevant question purely because ISV actually is considered a bit of a legacy term these days, but ultimately what an ISV is a company that develops and sells software. So creating innovative software solutions to address specific industry or market leads. More recently, obviously leveraging cloud-based platforms to deliver those solutions. So what I would say is a more modern term for ISV is a SaaS provider in that regard.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I think it's very relevant because there is a lot of people in the industry now that want to have their own ISV and are being very innovative with the way they're thinking and what they can deliver to this industry. So
Sure.
you talk a lot about Microsoft and the support there. So let's start. You can start from anywhere you want with this section,
Sure.
and let's hear your thoughts on what is going on in recent years.
In terms, okay, so where do we want to start? From a Microsoft partnership perspective or a Microsoft marketplace perspective? Either.
Yeah, you take your pick, and then we can go.
Okay.
We can circle back round.
No problem. So let me start really by let's set some context then, and in doing that, I'll ask you a question, if you don't mind, if I may.
Absolutely.
So if you were to start a business today, do you think that you would? And I'm trying not to be leading in my question, but sadly, I kind of will be. Do you think that you'd go and purchase maybe a SaaS-based bit of software as a new business, or do you think you'd purchase maybe a bit of software that requires you to maybe purchase a server and install that before you get up and running?
Probably a SaaS based.
Sure, and then why would that be?
Well, I think I'm probably a bit biased because I know what is out in the market, so that's just
Sure.
from my knowledge that I'd probably
Sure.
go with that.
That's fine. And you wouldn't be alone, right? If you think about most organizations these days are adopting SaaS. I mean, there's something like over 5 million micro businesses in the UK who are typically adopting SaaS, and I think the average statistic is that businesses are adopting something like 8 SaaS-based applications a month, and that has been driven by a couple of factors really. Since the recession that was back in 2008, organizations needed to reduce their costs but still provide technology to their users. Obviously, they don't want to be investing in hardware that they maybe don't need to. That was further evident in the recent pandemic, right? In terms of needing to ensure that your users were able to access systems remotely, have conversations like this over Teams, over Zoom, etc. So SaaS enables speed and scale, right? So my second question would be, and I'm not sure how this one will go because you're certainly younger than me, in terms of how you purchase music over time. So how has that changed in terms of maybe how you purchase your first single versus maybe how you listen or consume music today?
That's very true. I mean, I used to go down to HMV when that was a thing. You'd go down, look at the CDs, and pick out your good ones.
Sure.
And nowadays it's just accessible. I pay my little premium fee on Spotify, and you get access to everything. And that's how I would listen to it today.
Sure. So how you purchase music, how you maybe purchase, or how somebody would purchase software, has changed over time from, to your point, going somewhere physically and engaging with somebody versus maybe going on a digital platform and more easily consuming music. And again, you're not alone. If we think about generational shifts and actually who works in the technology industry now, I think it's something like over 60% of them are millennial age and below. So they grew up in the internet age. They're used to consuming software things more easily. Another example is I went and I needed a new car recently. I needed to change my car. I didn't necessarily go in the dealership. I used an app on my phone, CarWow, to purchase a car. So it's not just small purchases now that are influencing how people buy things. It's actually larger purchases as well. It's easy to do it on your phone, right? It's simple. So I suppose there's 2 key points there when we think about ISVs. ISVs are tending to move towards SaaS-based, cloud-based delivery models to really meet those deployment, scaling, adoption requirements of their clients. And secondly, that preferred purchasing model by making those solutions available in marketplaces through ease of access. So hopefully you're still with me, and those that didn't seem like the ramblings of a madman. So when we think about how Microsoft have evolved their programs over time, they have done that with really those 2 key points in consideration, that ISVs or SaaS based providers are taking that cloud-based adoption approach and wanting to be within Microsoft's commercial marketplace or other commercial marketplaces offered by hyperscalers to access client bases. So focusing on the Microsoft marketplace element, this is kind of where before I go into the programs, Microsoft Marketplace underpins pretty much every Microsoft program from an ISV perspective. And there's kind of 3 key ones that I'll certainly talk through. But very much the question that we get from ISVs is, okay, we understand that we need to meet our clients where they are, provide them with a way to purchase a software that is simplified. Why should we do that in the Microsoft Marketplace? So the kind of the top answers that I typically give are numbers based. The first is Microsoft has 9 million active clients each month utilizing their Azure Marketplace. So you think about
Wow.
that's quite a good number. Now, all I would say is that is a global number, and that I'll go on to another point on that global piece in a second. The second number is the fact that obviously that's end client organizations using Azure Marketplace. Microsoft also has 90,000 partners globally, right, in which an ISV can engage with and sell through to their end clients via the marketplace as a platform through their private offers capability. There's also 15,000 Microsoft salespeople globally as well.
Wow.
Are working with end clients. And then lastly, when I talk about global, there are actually 17 marketplace transactable countries in the world which Microsoft can provide, sell their solutions to organizations that exist within those countries. So on that point, when I think about Microsoft Commercial Marketplace and ISVs that we engage with, predominantly they may be selling into one country because that's their country, right? They're a UK-based ISV. Yeah. They'll sell to the UK because it's not straightforward, right? Setting up and billing in other countries because you have to go through tax considerations, maybe even have like addresses, all that kind of rigmarole. Well, doing that via the Microsoft Marketplace is easy because Microsoft take care of all the tax and the billing because it's possibly all on an Azure subscription. So your opportunity to market is greatly increased beyond your territory. Now, I say that flippantly because when you're selling into other countries, you may have data considerations that you need to adhere to and change your configuration, but it certainly increases that marketplace opportunity. So when we think about that from a numbers perspective and a market reach perspective, there's some really good statistics that are there to take advantage of as an ISV.
Definitely.
Now so the question that I typically get off the back of that is, that sounds great in terms of the market opportunity. Will my solution actually be supported in Microsoft Marketplace, right? In terms of, well, we think that maybe we're doing something that is particularly unique in terms of how we deliver our solution. It might be that we're not just SaaS, actually we need to deploy into a customer's own environment, for example. Well, Microsoft actually has different offer types depending on how an ISV is delivering their solution to end clients. Yes, it can be SaaS. It can be what Microsoft refer to as a managed app into an end client's own environment, which could possibly enable an ISV to wrap managed services around that because they can manage the resources required to deliver their application for the end client. It could be a Power BI app, it could be a Dynamics app, it could be an add-on. All those scenarios are, I would say, 98% are covered in terms of how an ISV can deliver that. There's also, okay, our commercial model. How does that work? Well, Microsoft support varying types of commercial models, and those can also be public and private types of offers. So what you see in the commercial marketplace in terms of, you could go to Azure.marketplace.com, I think it is, or something like that. You could see somebody's offer listed and they have a price on there. Great. Well, what happens if we're working with a client who wants some discount, or we're doing something particularly unique for that client? Well, Microsoft has this capability of private offers where you can do just that. You can privately offer a client maybe a discount or a specific plan or what have you as well. And I've said that's Azure Marketplace. They've got AppSource Marketplace as well, which is, I kind of differentiate the two in terms of Azure Marketplace is, I'm a business, I need a tool for my users. AppSource, I would say, is more, I'm a user, I need a tool to do something. But there's also in product experiences in terms of Teams and Dynamics. You can go and purchase add-ons within there, as well as the Microsoft salespeople, the Microsoft partners that I mentioned, and that can all be billed on a pay-go subscription, on invoice, via a CSP agreement through a Microsoft partner, via an MCA agreement directly with Microsoft. So hopefully, in terms of what I just ran through there, pretty much all scenarios from an application delivery model, a commercial model, a billing perspective, a route to market perspective, opportunity to market perspective are all covered when it comes to commercial marketplace. So hopefully that gives you context in terms of the opportunity around commercial marketplace, and that made sense.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I mean, for me, I've always been aware of ISVs and Microsoft partners and the very basics of how it all goes around. I've never had a conversation where I'm learning the ins and outs of it. So for me, this is quite fresh for me to hear. Definitely the statistics were a big shock to me at how high they are. Obviously, I know how globally it is used, but when you hear the actual statistics, it does shock you at how accessible it is to people now. And I think you just briefly covered it at the end there, because my thoughts are obviously a lot of ISVs, you know, it's new businesses that are blossoming, and how cost effective this route is for them. But I know you just briefly touched upon that, and it's nice to hear that there's so many different ways that payment can be done as well. It's very accessible.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other piece is that when I talk to ISVs, they'll say, okay, is it difficult to list yourself in a Microsoft Marketplace? Well, actually, you can start with a free contact us style offer, and as long as you've got product name, product overview, assets in terms of one pages, images, maybe video, although that's optional, a logo, you can be up and running and have a listing within 30 minutes. So, and that just gets you in the shop window in terms of having an offer that is visible within the Azure Marketplace. And the call to action is contact us. So you've got yourself in that shop window without actually having to do a great deal of effort. When you want to go through the process of becoming transactable, yes, there is some effort, and certainly I've got assets in which I can share with those that are interested in how to do so. But obviously, I'm willing to have those conversations with people as well, talking through that. But
absolutely, yeah. And I was just actually going to say that if anyone does have any questions on this, whether it be live and you want to comment now while we've got Chris, or afterwards, that we can go back to, as Chris has just said, he's quite happy answering those type of questions as well. So we've got the ISVs, they've inquired. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so we've got the ISVs, they've inquired, and you have spoken to the Microsoft Marketplace to work out what's best. You've taken it on board with ISV, and you're taking it out to your customers to drive sales. Let's talk a little bit about that piece. And I know there's a bit of analogy with the Blockbuster versus Netflix, and the shifting customer behavior. Let's elaborate on that area and those sort of next steps from there.
In terms of so in terms of what the engagement out to market, what specifically? Sorry.
Yeah, so once they are in a position to start driving those sales, how they're using all of this to help from that side of things.
Yeah, sure. So that is a very good question, because what has happened in the past is we've worked with ISVs who have listed themselves in the Microsoft Marketplace and just thought, well, because we're in there, we're just going to start getting a load of orders because we're in there, right? Everybody's looking for our solution. We don't have to do anything to drive awareness of our solution, which is sadly not the case. What I say to ISVs is you need to think about this and invest in this as a go-to market channel, and actually make sure that you are promoting this to your clients as a way in which they can procure and adopt your solution in a more simplified approach. And that approach can be, as I've kind of previously alluded to, the fact that they may already have an Azure subscription in which they can purchase and bill your solution against. So you're not, that end client isn't having to go through the rigmarole of the commercial setup, billing, invoicing with yourselves, rounds of quoting back and forth. Although I mentioned the private office capability, but still you've kind of got good indication in terms of what the cost is for your solution on a per deployment, per user, per device, whatever metric that you list your solution as. It's clearly visible from the off. So the other piece that I was going to go on to say is that if you're working with clients, particularly in the large enterprise space, they may have an Azure subscription with something that is something that is Microsoft referred to as a Mac decrement. And essentially Mac is a client, and this is a very simplified way of putting it, but committing to a certain amount of spend per month in order to get some form of discount from Microsoft. Now, what you're able to do, what they are able to do as ISVs is actually, as in clients, is utilize ISV solutions to call off against that Mac commitment. So it's not just they need to purchase Microsoft Azure solutions or resources. Actually, they can use ISV solutions to call off against that to get their discount from Microsoft as well. So certainly that's my advice to ISVs that are working in that enterprise space, is asking, okay, are you using Azure? Do you have a Mac decrement? Did you know that you can purchase our solution via your Azure subscription, call off against your Mac decrement to make those savings, as opposed to directly transacting with us as a business as they need to? Hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. It's just useful to know the ins and outs of absolutely everything. And I mean, I think in a tech world, when you're working with different ISVs, everyone wants a cost-effective solution. I think, especially after last year, and we all know it was a little bit of a tougher year, so to say, for companies.
Sure.
Everyone now is sort of going for those cost-effective solutions, and they want to save a little bit of money.
100%.
So I'm interested to see how it plays out this year with that as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a, not wanting to date this recording, right? But it's a bit of an interesting time at the moment in terms of global tariffs and all that sort of stuff. So it could be interesting, but that is again the benefit of a SaaS-based approach, right? Because you have, in most cases or most commercial cases, scaling. So scale up based on the number of users you got. You can scale down as you see fit. It's the same from an infrastructure perspective that the ISV is using to deliver that solution. More users, more infrastructure; less users, less infrastructure. Their costs are reduced. So everybody has that flex to some regards. And I'm sorry, I'm very mindful that we haven't actually talked about anything Microsoft program related, because this has been like a lot of preamble. Would you like me to jump into Microsoft programs now a little bit?
Absolutely, yes. Well, I'm going to loop back round. This is what happened when you end up speaking to someone. You end up just chat away, and then the time flies. So
yeah, and that is exactly it. And I appreciate that's the case. And I thought, I just noticed the time, if anything.
I know, flying by, but let's definitely target into that area because it's a very important topic.
Yeah, so I suppose what I would say is, I think one of the points of conversation was we were going to talk about today, right? Was changes that maybe Microsoft have made to their partner programs in the last two to 3 years, which have actually impacted ISVs. So to put a little bit of context around that for those that maybe aren't aware or who are aware, but just to underline that, Microsoft moved from what they referred to as a competency model, which there was something like 18 competencies of covering varying topics, on-premise, cloud, had different requirements in terms of skilling, revenue. I think the ISV particular one was pretty much just turn up at the Microsoft door and they'll give you a competency. I think it was such a low barrier of entry. They then transitioned to 2-3 years ago what they referred to as this solution designation model. Now, when they launched that, it's safe to say that ISVs, IoT providers, professional services organizations who didn't sell Microsoft software had their nose put out of joint, is probably a nice way to put it, purely because the metrics on launch were focused on the selling of Microsoft software, which ISVs aren't traditionally doing. They're focused on selling their own solutions. Microsoft took that black eye and actually they jumped all over it and have come back with in some really great ISV centric programs, which have now reached a point where they're somewhat sequential in terms of the approach. So let's start with Microsoft for Startups. Now, this is obviously going to be applicable for all organizations. So if you are an organization that is an ISV, has received less than 10K dollars worth of Azure credit from Microsoft, headquartered in an Azure region, and that's most regions across the globe these days, hasn't gone through Series D funding or later rounds of funding, is privately held and is a for-profit business. I think there is another one that says there is it's something like less than 10 years old. You would qualify for what Microsoft refer to as the Microsoft for Startups program, which you can go and apply for online. But a benefit of that is up to 120K's worth of Azure credit to use in terms of building your solution. It gives you GitHub licenses, it gives you Visual Studio licenses, so the tools in which to build that. You get Microsoft 365 subscriptions as well to run your business operations. Same with Dynamics 365, as well as Microsoft technical support when it comes to building out and delivering your Azure environment, and that extends to more recent topics such as AI, right? So they've built their IP, they want to extend the capability of that and understand what's possible with Microsoft AI, or you can do that through the consultancy that you get. So if you're in that startup space, if you meet those criteria, that is the first program that I would recommend any partner go and look at, is that Microsoft Startups program. Now, if you fall outside of that qualification criteria, Microsoft have what they refer to as the ISV Success program. And that program is, as the name suggests, right, ultimately a program specific for ISVs, helping them do two things similar to Microsoft for Startups: deploy to Azure. Three things: build on Azure and go to market with Microsoft. So where I've kind of previously said around that commercial marketplace lens in all their programs, that's where you begin to see that baked into these programs. And actually, to join the ISV Success program, and I'll go on to the benefits in a second, it's a really low barrier of entry. You join the Microsoft Partner Network, which in most cases is straightforward. You can do that in 5 minutes. You'll be business to business in focus. You have an app in development or developed, and there is intent to publish that solution to Microsoft Marketplace. And this program is free for the first year, $1,500 every subsequent year, assuming you've met that criteria in the first year. So super low barrier of entry in terms of the requirements. But if you meet that low barrier of entry, you get 5K of Azure credit, you get GitHub licenses, you get Visual Studio licenses, you get technical advisor engagement with Microsoft, and that's if you're building or you want a review, but you also get marketplace consultancy with Microsoft as well. So they'll talk you through building your marketplace. So it's not just consume Microsoft services. It's okay, consume Microsoft services, but actually how can we support you in terms of taking it to market and making you a profitable organization through that? And they've extended the benefits to include, similarly to the startups program, AI functionality. So there's AI specific consultancy in there as well. So ISV, so Microsoft ISV Success, and then there is a third for the more established organizations. Where I mentioned, and I'm sorry, Michael, we're at time. Are we okay for a little bit longer?
Absolutely, yeah. If we run over, it doesn't matter. It's just if you've got any meetings, I'm all good.
Awesome. Awesome. So there is a third and a sneaky fourth, in which I'll talk through after this one. So the third one is so you know how I said that Microsoft changed from a competency model from a solutions designation model, which was focused on selling Microsoft software. So Microsoft in the last, although it's been going on in the background, there's been pilots for well over, God, probably about a year and a half now. In the last 6 months, Microsoft have launched what they refer to as, it's a terrible mouthful, and I'm not sure who Microsoft gave this, but solutions partner designations with certified software.
Right, easy.
Great, really memorable. But what I would say is once you've done the ISV Success program, you can then go on to achieve this designation, and I'm not going to say the name each time because we'll be here all day. But ultimately, the requirements to attain that are delivering Microsoft commercial marketplace revenue. Now, where I would say this differs from the ISV Success is when we're talking about Microsoft commercial marketplace revenue, you're talking about 100K annually as a starting point. So it's a bit of a jump. There's a need for a completion of a technical audit, which is delivered by a third-party organization on behalf of Microsoft. Nope, sorry, forgive me. It's not 100K. It was 4 million marketplace build revenues per year. It's 100K to be part of something called the Azure IP co-sell program. And then, but you also need to either have a good rating on the marketplace. So I think it's 4.5 and above average rating, or you submit to customer case studies. So somewhat a barrier of a jump from ISV Success to this program, but you do get benefits in doing so. So you do get customer facing badges, you get marketing support from Microsoft in terms of a marketing concierge, you get marketing assets, solution briefings, and enhanced visibility within Microsoft. In terms of that, let's say Microsoft startups, ISV Success, solution designation, there is a sequential path. So build your solution with Microsoft for startups. Build your solution, develop your solution further, Azure Marketplace with ISV Success. Once you're demonstrating marketplace revenues, that's where you look at the solution designations program from Microsoft, which gets you deeper engagement with Microsoft and access to Microsoft people so through what they refer to as Azure IP co-sell, which is kind of a separate piece even itself. But the fourth piece that I kind of said is I would add on is that in the change that they made 2 years ago, Microsoft were extending the benefits, which they refer to as legacy benefits, for partners who were maybe an ISV, maybe an IoT provider, because ultimately Microsoft felt that it was somewhat unfair just to remove benefits because they weren't selling Microsoft software. That's now all coming to an end as of any renewals this year. So what Microsoft have launched is again in the past 6 months is what they refer to as partner benefits packages. Now these are available in 3 tiers, and they cover those that are on legacy benefits and making sure that they don't lose access to benefits and partnership with Microsoft. And there was another program called the Microsoft Technology TAP program. Microsoft Technology Access Program, I think it was, or something. Anyway, Microsoft acronyms, right? We live and die by them. But anyway, these 3 tiers of programs, 3 tiers of this partner benefits package. Essentially, all you need to be is a Microsoft partner and pay a fee, which starts at $345 and scales to $3,995 per year. And the more you pay, the greater the benefits that you get in that. So get Azure, get Visual Studio, you get Microsoft 365. Ultimately, the more you pay, the more licenses that you get. And on the top tier, you do begin to see on-premise use rights licenses for SQL, which some organizations still do utilize. There's additional Dynamics licenses, but the other differentiator between them is the technical pre-sales and advisory hours that you can get from Microsoft as well for being a partner. So if you're an ISV who's on legacy benefits, wants to look at a program to replace those legacy benefits, and they're not going to be 100% matched to the legacy benefits, I'll be completely honest, look at the partner benefits packages as a alternate. Now you can stack that with the ISV Success program as well. So you can get the benefits from both programs. The only point I would say is if you're an ISV and you're going to be utilizing the Azure on that, just be mindful that once the Azure is used up, you do get charged at RRP rates. So making sure that actually you think about utilizing that for maybe POC, test dev purposes, as opposed to your production environment, and thinking about, to your point, opportunities to be more cost efficient and not maybe spend more than you need to. So
Absolutely.
there you go. So
yeah,
some Microsoft programs there. There are other ISV programs and incentives and what have you specific to ISV, but I'm very mindful of our time today and information overload.
of course. No, I think it's very useful for the audience to be able to hear all those different things that are available to them. I think Microsoft is very accommodating with the different packages and solutions they can provide, and the different routes for, as you said, whether you're a startup moving into those more established businesses, there is something to cater to everyone within this. And as you mentioned, everything is evolving. You've got different add-ons with the AI and the Copilot, agentic agents, lots is coming out, but they're always sort of updating and upgrading. And I'm sure that makes your life absolute hell in your job trying to keep up with everything and new acronyms. But it definitely, obviously, from my perspective, to actually hear what is available and knowing that there is so much to offer for all different levels of businesses is really, really great to hear. And I assume, I mean, we can't really predict what's going to happen, but in recent years to come, what do you feel is going to change within this space?
Oh God, right. So now you're asking.
A
So what I
hard
would
one.
say, what I would say is when I talk about Microsoft Marketplace, right? There's evidence from a Microsoft perspective that they are really investing in that. So a good example is that this past year, for the first time in the UK, they held what they refer to as their Marketplace Summit, which is a dedicated Microsoft event focused on their marketplace and updates aligned to their marketplace. If you also look at what was the Microsoft Inspire Partner Conference, they rebranded it last year. I can't remember what it is. They had sessions on Marketplace, but also ISV specific sessions, which in previous years it was more focused around MSPs. Other acronyms are available. Those that are building, selling, deploying Microsoft software, right? So you can see a shift in terms of Microsoft's mindset, in terms of what a partner looks like, and the support that they need. From a technology perspective, I would say if you think about it in terms of maybe how more recently people have begun to engage with software. So you think about co-pilots or agents, right? It's going to be interesting to see how maybe ISVs are developing their UI or the front end of their application to maybe move from more traditional point and click approaches to possibly just being able to type a prompt to get the responses that you want, and maybe even greater integration between other ISVs, right? Because they've all got their specialist areas, their specialist data sets, which can be called upon. So yeah, I think certainly Marketplace is a big thing from what I've seen from a Microsoft perspective, and the whole AI piece is 100% going to gonna change how ISVs think about providing their application to users.
Absolutely. No, I think that's really good insights, and yeah, I think we'll have to see what happens. But if there's any useful links, whether it be to those type of conferences that evolved last year, the marketplace one, etc., any useful links, maybe we could just pop them in the comments after for people to look at, and we sort of share those.
Yeah, I think what I would say is to your point, right, is I've covered quite a number of different things in conversation today, right? And I appreciate that not every ISV is the same. There's a number of programs that I've run through. There's a number of different marketplace options that I've run through. I'm happy to have conversations with anybody, because you can tell I can go on about this stuff to the cows come home. In terms of actually just helping them define it aligned to their business. There's no charge for a conversation, right? And just kind of signposting. Yes, there are links, and I can provide links to all of the programs and all the assets that I talk through for sure. But if there's anybody that just needs a chat for clarity, I'm here to help.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, honestly, it's been so lovely speaking to you. And as I said, this is an area I've never really dived into. So it's super interesting to hear. And you are very, very knowledgeable one in this area. So yeah, it's been great to cover, even though, as you said, with this area, it's quite a short amount of time to fit everything in.
Sure. And this even before, right, is we're focused on ISVs. MSPs, SIs, they should also be thinking about how they go to market with marketplace to sell their professional services, because ISVs can do that as well, right? So yes, ISVs predominantly is a marketplace play, but if you're offering professional services, you should be thinking about marketplace, which is again a whole other conversation.
I'll get you back on for another half an hour.
Yeah, sorry, folks.
No, honestly, it has been so lovely to speak with you, and I know we sort of had this in the pipeline for a while, so it's nice to actually have you here and discussing everything. So what we'll do is, if anyone does reach out, whether it be to me via the comments or directly to yourself, as he has said, he is very much happy to speak with anyone that has questions. And obviously, please do look into Grey Matter as well and what they do. So yes, Chris, so lovely to have you on. I'm aware of time now, and we both have to get back to our jobs. But it's been such a pleasure speaking to you.
You too.
And we'll be catching up soon, I'm very sure. But we will be back next week for another episode.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks, Lucy. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.